I think it's no better time to unclog the Nintendo pipeline because Zach, you have in your little book of secrets, your
Yeah.
little um, notepad. You have quite a bit of some heavy duty stuff that you have the exclusive scoop on.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You you,
Totally.
you went to Bill Trinin's house
Uh-huh.
and you knocked on his door.
Right, right.
You're like, "Hey, Bill," and he was like, "I can't tell if that's someone off the street or that's myself because he has an awesome Bill Trinen impression." And then Bill Trinen opened the door, and you were like, "Hey, tell me everything you know about
Uh-huh.
the Nintendo NX." And he was like, "You know what? I'm gonna share it with you." And he gave you all this information, and he gave you full permission to share it today.
Yeah. He
He
gave me the
was
scoop.
he was gonna be on, but he had to fly to Australia.
And he's going to be on at a later date. He said, he guaranteed, he promised.
Yeah, Pinky promised.
Yeah,
He
he just
wrapped.
wants it to be a more like special planned out occasion. It was
Yeah,
kind of
Koppai.
spontaneous because I just knocked on his door.
Yeah, Koppai 100 will definitely have Bill Trinen on,
For
no
sure.
doubt.
Yeah.
Uh,
Guaranteeing it right now. I guarantee that. I'll
Bill
tell you that right
Trinen
now.
this is going to be a historic moment in Koppai history. Bill Trinen will be on Koppai 100. We're calling it. We're predicting it. We're saying it. We're declaring it now.
The
Episode
angels
18.
will make it happen.
We'll have the little stars, the little sprites in the sky that surround Rosalina. The Lumas will
Yes.
gather around and help us. Anyway, get on to the news
Yeah, the
or the
scoop
Nintendo
that Bill
pipeline.
gave me, all 100% true, everything that you just said. It didn't come from a NeoGAF verified poster named 10K. It came directly from Bill to me.
Yeah, okay.
And so, yeah,
Word of mouth, not even a
we're,
phone call. Like he was
yeah,
in full audible English, looking into your eyes, saying this, not
yes.
blinking.
Yeah, and he did designate that for some reason he was like, some of these are like not as true as maybe some other things.
He wanted us to guess on the podcast. He's
Yeah.
gonna be like, it's kind of like a game. Like,
He's like, I divided these into tiers for you. There's tier one, which is like, this is kind of true maybe, and then there's like the tier three, which is like, this is pretty much going to happen because we are all in on it, or something like that. I don't remember the exact conversation, his exact wording. I didn't have a
you weren't really
notepad.
paying attention.
Yeah,
You were kind of like looking around Bill's house, like, what am I
yeah.
doing here?
Yeah, I was completely in awe, and so yeah, some of this might be a little inaccurate, so take everything with a grain of salt. But he did tell me some things about the NX,
Okay.
and the first thing that he said might not be completely true is that the NX will use a custom Polaris-like GPU.
Ooh.
And it says the NX GPU is using features that are debuting on the Polaris chip and therefore heavily speculated to be a Polaris chip, as that would work well in a handheld too and help AMD prove that they can make low wattage chips with good performance for small devices. Something of note is that the source, Bill said, that is marginally better than the PS4 and theoretically could be 2 times the power of the PS4 GPU. Um,
That seems.
yeah, and they also asked, or I mean, I I asked about the PS4K being rumored to have a GPU 2 times as powerful as the OG PS4 and how the theoretical performance of the NX would be, and Bill said theoretically it could be close to the PS4K rumored specs. So, despite being, not possibly true, or it's on kind of the lowest tier, I think it makes a lot of sense because we've been speculating about how it's going to be a handheld that has possibly its standalone power to run games or something, and so it would
Yeah.
need to be really powerful, and it would need to have some sort of interesting new sort of chip power to be able to do it. Like, and we were talking about like the 900p rumor, which
Yeah.
is kind of specific for these sort of handheld chips, experimental things. So it seems somewhat credible despite
Yeah, and
being
it
kind of the
seems
lower
like, I
tier.
mean, we haven't really discussed the PS 4K rumors too much on Kopai because we're not a PlayStation podcast, but you and I very much so follow the PlayStation scene.
Right.
We have PlayStations ourselves and play that quite often, so we know, we're kind of up to date on what those things are.
Hmm.
And the speculation with that is that the PS 4K is mainly, if it is true, which it seems all but confirmed right now. Like it may
Yeah.
not, or to all but confirmed to be in development. It may not be launching and it may not be coming out, but they're definitely experimenting with a more powerful PS4. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people think to coincide with the launch of PlayStation VR that maybe through connecting your PSVR to PS4K, it would be able to process the virtual reality better. And maybe like with a traditional PS4, you would have 720 virtual reality games, but with the PS4K, you could do the 1080p or 60 frames per second or something like similar to like a new 3DS style thing.
Uh-huh.
And it would make sense then if Nintendo is along the same path where they're going to have this for the sake of having a peripheral be able to process the graphics easier, like we've mentioned with the handheld controller. And it also it's interesting that these rumors are popping up like about a more powerful Nintendo console that's more powerful than the PS4. And there's also like very confirmed rumors of a more powerful PS4 coming. And even Xbox has had confirmed rumors of them making upgradable parts to their Xbox One. And so,
Mm-hmm.
no doubt, and I think we even had a rumor from GameStop,
Yeah.
about like the executive there saying that new consoles across the board are imminent, like they're coming.
Yeah.
And so that just makes sense that some sort of processing company is getting in touch with Bill Trinen and being like, "Hey, I have this chip. Do you want it?" And Bill's like, "Absolutely. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put that in the console that I'm making by myself.
Yeah.
The Trinen box. The
Yeah, he also said that he's working with Vulkan too with the NX. So this goes hand in hand with using Polaris-based GPU and goes with the announcement of Nintendo joining Kronos.
hmm.
So yeah, some credibility to that. And most dev kits won't be given until Nintendo formally reveals the NX. Nintendo is not very happy with the leaks and is keeping them on lockdown. So Bill, shame on you, but outside of close partners and internal teams, most devs are using SDKs until the NX reveal.
Yeah.
So yeah, not too much to talk about there,
Yeah, I mean,
really.
there was worry, I think, in the past that people were saying that developers aren't getting NX kits, and I think there are a few. The rumors have discussed that,
Yeah.
if these are true.
Hmm.
But yeah, it does make sense that they're kind of holding off and
Well, and,
stuff.
and also, like we've talked about before, is the fact that we have heard that the NX is very easily portable, or like
Yeah,
you can port to it very easily, and so people don't necessarily need these dev
yeah.
kits because it'll be so easy to port their games that some of these complaints about people being worried, like I haven't got my dev kit yet, you might not necessarily be in too bad of a spot because it might be a lot easier than you anticipated because of how accessible they're making the new NXB in terms of its hardware and all of that.
Yeah,
So,
it seems the nice thing about it, from what we've heard, is it seems like it's doing the traditional Nintendo kind of gimmick system where they have like the handheld combining with My Nintendo and like all of those like unique things. But they've also compromised and they're like, okay, we'll have a handheld with a screen that's touch screen and stuff, but we'll make it so it's mirroring the actual TV. So you don't need to worry about for a game designer designing some sort of whole new UI or HUD or function for the gamepad. Like just go ahead and mirror it, but um, it'll be touch for some games, or you know what I'm saying. Like it'll
uh-huh.
have those capabilities if you want those, but it doesn't necessarily need to take advantage of those. It doesn't need to be a whole extra step. And I think with that standard established across the board, you won't have developers hesitant to take advantage of that. And it also sounds like, once again, going off the previous point, it sounds like you said, it'll be easy to port. It may actually just be the same exact hardware as PS4K. Maybe
Right.
like
Right.
certain proprietary like parts and stuff, but very much so just another computer in a Nintendo case.
Hmm. Yeah, and it seems like it's going to be awesome because it seems developers have been having headaches for years now with Nintendo and trying to get
Hmm.
their games to work and so many delays and games coming out like a year later or many years like we see with Minecraft that like just came out
Yeah.
that it took way too long to get Minecraft on even the Wii U. So there must be some things where like developers really have to compromise and do crazy porting strategies to get these games on Nintendo consoles. And it seems like for the first time, Nintendo's actually smartening up in that area and releasing a system that is going to be a lot easier for that. And also, like they say, that there's a lot of Nintendo NX games in development is one of the other of these rumors, and if there's a lot of NX games in development, like from Nintendo, and then also all these ported games, it seems like it's going to be a really robust library of games and really a strong console. So it's really cool to see,
Yeah.
even though we haven't really seen anything of it yet.
Yeah, well,
Emergency.
we'll know something soon because they're going
Yeah.
to announce it officially in April.
hmm
Yeah,
It'll probably
if
be,
they haven't already announced it by the time this podcast goes up on Monday morning.
yeah, after my emergency declaration to them to announce the Nintendo NX. I think they're going to hear that pretty soon. And
Well, yeah, didn't they hear your announcement and didn't they decide to do like a financial meeting at the end of April?
something like that. Or
Yeah.
I know that you're in part of something that's trying to keep it under
No,
wraps until like the end of April or something. I know something like hopefully it comes out this month because you have some sort of weird, you know, insider
I've had the
knowledge. I don't know.
prediction
I'm
for a
totally.
while that it'll be announced and or like not necessarily like revealed, but it'll be announced and officially talked about. Like we'll get the name and we'll get
Hmm?
the details shared in April.
Yeah.
And especially, I didn't even know. I said all that. Like I've said
hmm
that for a while now.
Yeah. Well, and you're part of
Maybe I haven't
the.
officially said it on Koppai, but you can vouch for me. I've said that in like Facebook conversations and
Yeah.
tweets and
Well,
texts and stuff.
and you're part of the Illuminati, so
Yeah.
you know these things. Like you're in on it, so
Well,
yeah.
come on. I
You're
mean,
part of the big conspiracy.
yeah. Well, even Link from Zelda and stuff, he's Illuminati. I mean, that
Yeah.
Triforce is not a coincidence to be a triangle.
Yep.
And he's green, and money's green. I rest my case.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah. Kaz has the puzzle pieces, and so I'm just throwing that out there. Moving on, Mercury Steam has a dev kit and is making an already announced game for the NX. The only announced game they have is Raiders of the Broken Planet, currently under development for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. So that's likely the game that is
Can't
going to
wait.
be coming for the NX. Another rumor: a Final Fantasy
Woo,
15 is coming to the
doctor.
NX. The source said he's heard more of this. More of his sources mentioned it's coming to NX, no idea when. And as in terms of Final Fantasy VII remastered, nobody's heard about it. It's unlikely that it would get an NX port because it seems it's very Sony funded and
Yeah.
Sony attached. So,
Yeah, I don't know. Final Fantasy 15, I was actually wondering, I was looking for some sort of leak or confirmation during the because I watched that big what was it? Uncovered, Final Fantasy 15 Uncovered with
uh
Tim
huh,
and Greg.
yeah,
And I was looking when they had the final title screen of like the release date. I was looking at the bottom to see if just somehow for some reason it was like PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo NX, like if they just confirmed it there like accidentally or maybe
yeah.
like
They
on
should have done
purpose.
that. That would have been
Um
awesome.
yeah, I mean, because Final Fantasy definitely does like have a lot of heritage, like with either Nintendo or you could argue with Sony, because
Hmm
there's kind of different eras and stuff of Final Fantasy. And Final
Yeah,
Fantasy 15 shaping up to be like an awesome, awesome game. I think it looks
yeah.
incredible.
Well,
And
I mean, if it's just as powerful, basically, the NX, like, why wouldn't they?
yeah,
Unless it's, I mean, especially now that Cloud is on Smash and stuff, it seems like there's some sort of, and I mean, Square Enix has been having games come out for Nintendo consoles for years now. They've had
yeah.
like a
I
sort
just
of
picked up
prepared
Curtain
relationship.
Call for the 3DS, the little rhythm game of Final
Yeah,
Fantasy. It's
and
so fun.
it seems I'm not for sure on this. Does Final Fantasy come out on the Microsoft Xbox platforms? I didn't.
Yeah,
It
Final
does.
Fantasy
Okay, so
15 will. Yeah,
yeah, if it's on that and if it's not a PlayStation exclusive, I don't see any reason being competitively powerful as a console that it wouldn't, and with being easily ported, there should be no real reason that it would be left
yeah.
off. It should
I think
be made to support Final Fantasy 15.
it just depends on it'll depend on the initial install base or whatever. And I mean, Nintendo's probably making deals to be like just go ahead and trust us with the NX, although that may be hard for a developer to do. But I mean, because you did have a game like, say, for example, Grand Theft Auto 5. Like
hmm
Grand Theft Auto 5 could run on the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and the Wii U was more powerful than those consoles. And so it made no sense for the Grand Theft Auto 5 not to launch on.
But is it
Um,
more powerful than those consoles?
yeah, it definitely is. Like
Okay.
if you look at comparisons of like Assassin's Creed 4, which is on all three,
hmm
Assassin's Creed 4 ran like significantly better on Wii U, or not significantly, but like it did run better. It was like
And that was a next gen. It wasn't on like PS3 or Xbox 360.
it was yeah, it was on PS3, Xbox 360, Wii U, PS4, Xbox One.
Okay.
And like when doing like graphical and like frame rate
hmm
comparisons, it was worst on 360 and PS3.
Hmm.
It was
Okay.
about clocking in like at a medium power or so on Wii U, and then high power on
I
PS4
see.
and Xbox
I
One.
see.
So it was more powerful, but it wasn't as powerful as PS4 and Xbox One. The
Right.
point being, any game on the PS3 and Xbox 360, power wise, should be able to run the Wii U. But you had a lot of games that, like, several Assassin's Creed games
Yeah.
weren't. Grand Theft Auto 5, then, for example,
Yeah, well,
and it's, I
and
mean,
a lot of
and
people
many
lost
more.
faith in it, I think, too, because of just like the difficulty. I don't think a lot of it maybe not necessarily had to do with the power, but
Yeah,
maybe the development for it and maybe like the unique sort of elements to the Wii U system that
yeah.
made it more
Same reason people
difficult.
don't develop for the Vita.
And also just Nintendo's general, like I could see them for sure bringing a Final Fantasy 15 game to the Wii U, but bringing Grand Theft Auto 5, I would think that just Nintendo as a company would be a little more hesitant to
Yeah,
do.
maybe.
Um, like I really would be surprised if we see a Grand Theft Auto game on a Nintendo console at any time. I just think it's one of the things that they might.
Well, but no, didn't we have like China Wars or something on
We
3DS?
did,
Or
yes, that's true. We did have that. So
yeah,
there's
so I mean,
that
I don't.
exception. I guess that's they
Yeah,
did do
there. I mean,
that.
because I don't know if it's necessarily an issue, but yeah, I think it is. Like you mentioned, just the development for it, I think, is really tough. Like
Hmm.
we heard about that with like the Vita, for example, where the Vita is definitely capable of handling almost every PS3 game to some capacity. To be like,
Yeah.
especially like the indie and the PS Network games. But
Hmm.
then you have a game like Axiom Verge, for example, which didn't come out for like like I mean, like well after the initial release and the initial promise of it coming out, because it's just hard to develop for it. Like it's capable and it's possible, but it's just this is a
Yeah.
harder game to port over than it would seem. And I'm so excited for. I think it'll be not next week, but 2 weeks from now. We're hopefully going to have that game designer on that's worked with the Wii U,
Hmm.
and they've worked with a game that's been on PC and on Wii U, and they weren't personally involved with the porting system,
Yeah.
but I think they would be at least somewhat familiar with it and maybe the mindset
Right.
of porting.
Hmm.
And it'll be interesting to ask them, like at least with the Wii U hardware, like how that process went and why it was maybe sometimes so difficult. Because yeah, I think at the end of the day, that's what the problem was. But we've also seen that the NX is probably not going to have that problem,
Hmm.
and it'll be the first console in quite a while for Nintendo that hasn't been very hard to port over. Like with the NES and the SNES, that was relatively simple. I mean, you had Nintendo standards and stuff, and they were very much so like limiting what could be on the market, and was the reason that you had to have companies making like almost spin-offs of their own companies so they could release more games on the Nintendo or on the Nintendo Entertainment System. But then, like by the time you got to the N64 and you had developers wanting to do disc-based stuff, and then Nintendo was like, "No, you gotta do cartridges."
Yeah.
That posed problems for porting, and then the GameCube took that a step farther and made it even harder to port. And then the Wii had completely unique controls compared to other controllers, which made things even harder to port. And then you have the Wii U, which completely not only in gameplay, controllers, but also just in internal hardware, just made it a nightmare. And
Hmm.
then the install base, it just that's been for 2 decades Nintendo's biggest um, with or withdrawal or what would be or crutch or whatever
Hmm.
was the fact that they are almost somewhat mean to their third party support. They make it so hard to want to support
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
as a developer, and if the NX flips that, like not only makes it easier, but makes it almost foolish not to just go ahead and make a version for the NX and at least put it out on like the digital store where there's like almost absolutely no cost to you besides their server space. Um, that'll be insane. Like to see like how that
Yeah.
completely flips like Nintendo's market. And so
Yeah, it seems like they're going to try to make it profitable. Like they're going to try to make it so that it seems like one of the main issues, maybe with all the third parties developing and porting their games to Nintendo consoles these past couple decades or so, is that it's been like a potential loss of profit to put your resources and your time into working on developing for it. And now
yeah,
with a simpler, easier way, it might just be make like an easy way to make profit. Like it will be relatively cheap to port to the NX, and then you just make all of your revenue off of potential sales for there. So yeah, that's a really cool prospect.
yeah, definitely.
So yeah, there's actually a whole bunch of information that Bill delivered. That
How
that
long were you there? I
A
mean,
few hours. We
yeah.
had some cookies and milk and sat in front of the fire, and he just told me some
You sat
NX.
in front of the fire and it's like I mean, at least where I'm at, it's like 70 degrees out. Like in
Yeah.
mid-April, you just sit by the fire and
Yeah, he was wearing like a sweater.
my gosh, he must have been so hot. I guess it is Seattle though. It was probably rainy.
Yeah, it was it was very nice. He said the NX will likely launch at different times per region. Um, because it does make sense if the NX uses 14 NM chips, as there's a risk of not having enough of those chips ready on shelves for holiday 2016. No regions were specified, but one would assume with the slow adoption of consoles in Japan and the popularity of handhelds over there, the NX will launch in the West first, like some past Nintendo consoles. Consoles are more popular outside of Japan, likely North America and Europe. So that's kind of nice for us, I guess.
Yeah. I mean that I don't like that rumor
Mhm.
at all. Like whether it benefits us or benefits someone else. Like if we get
Right.
it earlier, if we get it later.
Um,
I like the idea of just a worldwide release. Like I
yeah,
like how they do that
definitely.
with Pokemon. I like how they've been doing that with like Final Fantasy 15, for example. We just talked about that. I believe that's a worldwide release for September 30th. And I mean, I think especially with the internet age, people communicate across everything. And it was a really big bummer when they got the new 3DS first over in Japan because it's not that like I was like jealous or wanted to play it and stuff. Like I knew like what it would be and I knew it wouldn't be like such a radical new experience. But it's just like I mean, you have it. We can see it. We're watching videos online. Like it's not. I mean, with like Mitomo, for example, it's
Right.
like there's the English version available. Like, why is it not just over here?
Yeah,
But
Yoshi's Woolly World was so ridiculous how it
that
was
was
like
that because
months and months, and it was like, what?
yeah, people were like finishing the game and like posting reviews, and like it was so weird that I think even IGN when they posted their review finally, they're like, yeah, we reviewed this
Uh-huh.
months ago, but here's what we said in our
Yeah.
European site and stuff. I mean, that was weird too because I mean, once
Yeah.
again, it was like all English for the most part. So I mean, why was it not over
And it has
here?
to cause those things like when I saw the announcement for Yoshi's Woolly World when it was coming out and it was like June 21st or something and I was like throwing a little party for a minute like, "Oh yeah, it's coming out soon." And then I see it's like Europe only and I'm like, "Oh, dang, what? What's going on?" And so it seems
Yeah,
like inevitably it's going to have some of those people that like when they announce the NX and say it's coming out this date, people in Japan are like, "Oh yeah." And then they're like,
yeah,
"Oh man, it's not coming out here for like another 6 months." So,
yeah. I mean, I wonder. Hopefully, because it sounds like I wonder if it's going to be kind of like the Smash situation where we got Smash right before Black Friday because Black Friday is a huge deal for us here.
yeah.
And then Europe, I don't believe, got it till like a week later, and then Japan didn't get it, I think, for the Wii U version till like December.
Mhm.
Um, and it wasn't like a big deal because they don't really have that whole culture of like go shopping on Black Friday. And so I wonder if that's what's maybe going to be because they talk about or Bill was telling you about how they have like the chips and stuff and how they need to develop those 14, what is it, nanometer chips.
Yeah.
They need to like have those, and those are harder to get their hands on and harder to produce. And so to get those out for holiday 2016, they're going to be limited on shelves, probably similar to the Wii situation where they just did not develop a lot of those. And they probably also don't want to send out a bunch of Nintendo NXs and have a Wii U situation where those
Right.
things are just gathering dust next to the PlayStations. And so that makes sense and all that they'd be hesitant on that, but then also maybe just try it out with like Black Friday in the North like America area.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I mean, yeah, good news for us and stuff. I don't. I mean,
Yeah,
hopefully,
definitely.
hopefully Bill changes his mind on that and is like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna click the schedule button on my Google Calendar for worldwide release October 13th, 2016, my birthday. Only he would say Kaz's birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving forward.
Yeah, he also said there's lots of NX games in development, and he said, and you can quote me on this on the gaff too. I think NX software output is going to blow away Wii U. There's a lot of games in development. I don't know if we'll see all of them at E3 since a lot of Wii U projects weren't announced until January 2013, but I'm very impressed so far with what I'm hearing. So yeah, that's really good news. Makes sense that they would try to be surpassing the Wii U in all sorts of ways. So, yeah. And with ports and blah blah blah, and this other rumor that new IP are being developed. And he said, I'm not allowed to give specifics, but that's a sure bet. And then he clinked his glass against mine, and That was it for that tier.
And the flames kind of flickered in his eyes, and
Yeah.
he chuckled and rolled
And then
back. And then
he
you
said,
heard Reggie walk in, and he was like, "Zach, what are you doing here?" And
"Yeah,
then you all played Mario Kart for
yeah,
the NX,
uh-huh."
Mario
Well,
Kart 9.
Reggie actually said, "You know what? Luigi's Mansion 3 is in development for the NX."
You just heard it from across the room, like you were laughing
And I
with
was like,
Bill, and
Reggie,
then
I
like,
already heard this like last week or like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago or something. Reggie, this is old news. Gosh,
oh
Reggie always coming in and just ruining everything, like the Smash
my
imitation of.
God, just putting Reggie on blast.
No, I love Reggie. I'm just kidding.
Happy birthday,
Uh,
Reggie.
yeah, happy birthday to you. Yeah, he did tell me Luigi's Mansion. I was actually very ecstatic to hear that Luigi's Mansion is in development for the NX. He told me that two different sources told him that it's in development for the NX. And one source said it's being developed by Next Level Games, who is definitely big enough to do this, and Federation Force at the same time, which sounds very Reggie. One source said it started as a Wii U game, but after the disappointing performance of the Wii U and the scheduled release date for the game being late in the console's cycle, Nintendo decided to switch development over to the NX. Basically the same situation as Zelda for Wii U, but no word on if this game will also get a Wii U version.
Hope
His
not.
other source said it's a pretty big deal, but didn't elaborate if they meant Nintendo is making a big deal or if their workplace is. So, and there's also some other evidence to corroborate the story, like the rumor from a couple weeks back. But yeah, very exciting because Luigi's Mansion is always awesome.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah, definitely. We've talked about that.
yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah,
really exciting. Hope it's true. Hope it's on the NX and that it's more like the original Luigi's Mansion.
hmm
You can find our snippet discussion on that on Koppai, some YouTube, or listen to, I think it's episode probably
yeah,
16, I think.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so
Well
we have
then,
that discussion there.
yeah, then they got really mellow and they were like, "Do you want to hear like the big thing?" And I'm like, "What's the big thing?" They're like the NX gimmick. And I'm like, "Yeah, are you sure you're ready for this?" And I'm like, "I'm ready. Please tell me." And they said the
Your body was
NX.
ready,
My body was
and
ready.
Reggie got his body ready.
Everybody's body was ready.
The
And
room was
they,
tense.
yes, I leaned forward and they said the NX is going to have a screen controller. Whether it's optional or standard, I don't know. And it can be used anywhere to play your home console games. The controller itself will not have any processing capabilities.
Oh
It'll
man.
essentially be a dummy Vita. It'll likely have basic OS functions to access the NX console from anywhere, like a tiny CPU. And Nintendo will use enhanced Wii U gamepad streaming tech and allow the controller to be taken anywhere and connect to the NX console at home, likely through Wi-Fi or personal hotspots, and the NX console will likely have to be in standby mode. Basically, it's remote play built into the box and won't require a $200 add-on to experience it.
Yeah.
Basically, a little jab at the Vita. This is likely what Kimishima meant when, in his interview with Senkai, he said there's a different way to play with a dedicated machine and the whole new way to experience games with the NX mantra that's been going around Nintendo PR. So, yeah, the
Definitely, I mean,
screen
because
is
they,
going to
they
have a screen controller, which we already knew, but
yeah.
just
Yeah,
more
it sounds like your visit
confirmation.
to Bill and Reggie's was like not totally packed with information. I think the
Yeah.
big thing is just like that with all this information on NeoGAF now with a verified user,
Uh-huh.
the big news is just that a lot of this is reconfirming things you've
Right.
already heard with a more verified voice.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
whether it's Bill, Reggie, or 10K on NeoGAF.
Yeah.
Because the story of
Or
Bill and
Emily
Reggie may
Rogers.
or may not be true.
Right.
That may have been more creative integrity,
Uh-huh.
or what's the term? Artistic liberty. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Actually, almost completely lacking integrity. Man, no, definitely cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the whole concept. I mean, you have Nintendo kind of revolutionary play, or revolutionaryizing. There you go. That's the
hmm
word. Play with
Revolutionaryizing.
touch, yeah, with touch controls, and the whole touching is good. That was their ad campaign.
Okay.
You know, don't laugh at
Yeah.
me.
No,
It was
they meant it. I'm sure to make me laugh.
yeah, touching is good.
Indeed.
They had now you're playing with power with like the NES and stuff, and the SNES because that was like compared to some of the competition at the time was more powerful, and then Sega upped them on that. But then they had you know, what I mean, a whole new way to play and how will you play next, and we would like to play, and it makes sense for their next kind of goal, especially with the kind of like Mitomo and their mobile initiative and this the whole concept of where games are going for it to be gaming on the go, like that whole experience of gaming wherever, gaming at home, gaming on the bus, gaming with your 3DS, but connecting it to your phone, but connecting it to your TV, but connecting, I mean, just like the NX is crossing over everything.
Uh-huh.
That just makes sense for like the next evolution of Nintendo. And so I don't even think that's a gimmick necessarily, because a gimmick sometimes implies like, all right, this is silly. Like this is only going to appeal to a few people. But the concept of being able to game wherever, like the Vita on paper, is an awesome idea.
Uh-huh.
Why it failed, I mean, the memory card, I guess, was a really big flaw. Like they had
Mm-hmm.
to pay for those memory cards.
Definitely.
But beyond that, I mean, I think it still seems to be a mystery. Like even the best people in like the PlayStation conversation seem to be like, I don't know why this failed. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
it's powerful, it's portable, it's sleek. It has, I mean, at the moment of its launch, it had like the best operating system. Why it failed, I think, just because the price maybe, which is was the Sony problem back then. Um, and I guess once again, just the lack of third party support. But I mean, you even had Call of Duty on there. Like they were pumping some quality games in there. So I don't know why that necessarily failed.
Right.
Um,
Mm.
but I mean, I think if it were to get a second chance, especially if it were to get if you were to have a Nintendo Vita,
Yeah.
like where Nintendo were pumping games into there, and then it had the power of what the NX is supposed to be. It just seems like it's just taking what the Vita should have been and taking what the Wii U should have been, putting them together, which I think just
Mm-hmm.
sounds like an ideal console.
Yeah.
Uh, a breed between the Wii U and the Vita.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like such an awesome idea. And so
Yeah, definitely.